Hey, what up, YouTube land? Here with another video. Another one. DJ Khaled style. Today, I'm going to be talking about what the whole internet is talking about. It has the internet on fire. Everybody's talking about it. Who won? Who lost? Did he win? Did he lose? Did he get robbed? Blueface's boxing match. Him versus Chibu. Who really won? Let's find out. Let's figure it out. I watched the fight. Did y'all watch the fight? Um, Internet saying Blueface, half the internet saying Blueface got robbed, 4 rounds to 2. Half the internet saying Chibu won. I never heard of Chibu until this fight. Blueface was supposed to fight Ruga, which Ruga actually ended up winning his fight against KJ the Great, this dude that I think have had multiple fights on Aiden Ross's streaming platform, on his brand risk, boxing platform. Ruga, he was actually a big underdog for the fight. A lot of people thought KJ the Great was gonna actually win that fight, but Ruga actually dropped him, hit him with some good punches. After the first round, you kind of tell that KJ, he was a little shook. He didn't really want to go in there and get hit too many more times. Ruga actually has a pretty good right hand on him. I'm not gonna lie. But back to Blueface. I watched the fight. I was out, but I was, watching the fight, so I wasn't really tuned in. But I seen the whole fight, and I thought Blueface lost. I thought Chibu actually, pulled out the W. Chibu, he caught Blueface with a few good clean punches. Blueface looked like he really hadn't been working on his cardio. Chibu was way bigger than him. He was, I'll give Blueface that, but Chibu was kind of overweight. I think he used to be like over 300 pounds, and he dropped some weight for the fight. I think he said he was around like 270 something. Blueface was like 220, I think, 220 something. So you would think, Blueface would be in better shape, have more cardio, more stamina, but didn't look like that in the fight. Blueface was dripping slobber all over the place, had the ring soaking wet with spit, with Drew. Chibu knocked him out the ring. He didn't knock him out with like a clean punch, but he was hitting him, and Blueface fell out the ring flat on his back, was out of there. But I seen the fight. Like I said, I don't think Blueface got robbed. I did have Blueface winning. Luckily I didn't bet any money on them, because I would have been out of that money. Blueface is claiming that the fights are rigged, that Aiden is rigging the fights for his fighters, which I didn't see all the fights, because they said some of the other fights had questionable decisions, but I did see Blueface's fight, and I gotta keep it real. I gotta be honest. I didn't have him winning that fight. Like I said, he caught Chibu with maybe like 2 or 3, clean punches, but besides that, Chibu was Minka, Maka, Muka, rocking the blues out of him. Blueface said he will not be fighting on Aiden Ross's platform again due to the scandal or the fixed rigging allegations. But honestly, I just think Blueface needs to take that L on the chin, get back in the gym, mainly work on his cardio. Honestly, I think he lost it, when he went to prison. Once he got out of prison, he doesn't really look like he's fighting the same to me as he did before he went to prison. He looked a lot better before prison. I don't know if it's the weight that he put on, or maybe, just not fighting for over 3 years. That definitely could do it. And, Chibu has been active. He's been fighting a lot. I think this was like his 11th or 12th fight on, the brand risk platform, with Aiden Ross. But, people, of course, Blueface's people are going to say he got robbed. it wasn't like a landslide victory, but I wouldn't say that it could have went either way. I definitely had Chibu winning the fight before they announced the decision. I wasn't surprised that he won. He just, to me, he just wanted it more. Blueface, he's already popular, famous, rich, so-called rich. So you would think that he would go out there and give it his all. If he's taking boxing serious, but Chibu definitely wanted it more. It definitely showed. He definitely was the aggressor in the fight. He definitely was coming at Blueface harder than Blueface was coming at him. So, Blueface, if I was Blueface, I would have just said, he was the better man that day. Blueface, he didn't get dropped technically. Like I said, he got knocked out the ring, but, he didn't get dropped. He didn't get knocked out. Like I said too, he didn't drop Chibu. He didn't really rock Chibu at all. Chibu actually rocked him maybe like 2 times that I saw, where I was like, oh, Blueface, he was like, he felt those punches. He was a little befuddled, So Chibu definitely gained some recognition from this fight. I'm not sure how many followers he gained, but I'm pretty sure he gained a good amount of followers. I'm sure he gained a lot of respect from the social media world as well as the boxing world. He was training with Rampage Jackson before the fight, months before the fight, and Rampage actually called it, before the fight. Rampage had picked Chibu to win, which I was kind of surprised about that. But like I said, he trained with him, so, he said Chibu was as tough as they come. I don't know if maybe Blueface underestimated him or, like I said, he probably seems like Blueface, was still partying, hanging out with different females. Pretty sure he was drinking still. I'm not sure if he smokes, but looks like if you looked at the fight, it looked like he definitely had been smoking. Chibu, I don't know if he drinks or smoke, but it just looked like he took this fight a lot more serious. When you're at the bottom, or you're on the come up, you don't really have a name, you're trying to build a name for yourself. That's a lot of motivation and gas in the tank to make you go hard. Blueface, I don't know. Well, he is fighting Swaggy P coming up. Swaggy P made some posts, clowning him, saying, he can't. If he lost to Chibu, he's for sure not going to beat me. With Swaggy P, aka Nick Young, was saying. But man, I had Blueface. I still got Blueface winning against Swaggy P. I haven't seen Swaggy P fight or box, but this kind of takes some of my thoughts away from the fact that Blueface is gonna beat Nick Young. I'm not as confident in that as I was before after seeing this past fight. Even Blueface mom, she didn't just come out straight, Carlissa, his mom, she didn't just come out straight and say Blueface lost, but, she kind of hinted at him, she was saying that Chibu needs to fight Blueface's big brother. When the mom calls the big brother, when she wants the big brother to fight him, come on, what that means. But, yeah, I don't know. If you guys saw the fight, let me hear your guys' thoughts, comment, did you think Chibu won? Did you think Blueface won? Did you think it was a draw? You think Blueface got robbed? I also believe Aiden Ross said that he banned Blueface from boxing on Brand Risk, his platform again, even though Blueface had already said he wasn't gonna be fighting on there anymore. And Blueface, he was mad. If you seen him talking after the fight, he did not look like the same person. His voice, you could hear it in his voice. He was, Aiden, and that's how he was sounding if you seen him after the fight for the interview. And, even clips after the fight, I think he started live streaming after the fight. He was still out of breath, like, an hour and a half after the fight. He was still out of breath. And, Chibu was doing interviews right after the fight. It looked like he barely had even been in the fight. So that's just my thoughts on it. That was my opinion. You guys, please like, share, comment. Let me hear your thoughts. I'll be back with another one soon.